Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte has signed an anti-terrorism bill into law amid widespread opposition and fear it will be used to silence critics. But the government says those concerns are unfounded. Now, supporters of the law say it will bolster the Philippines' counter-terrorism efforts. For more, let's speak to Buena Bernal. So, Buena, what are some of the biggest concerns about this new counter-terrorism, anti-terrorism law?
It's a law that its crafters say is patterned after anti-terrorism laws in Australia and France, but it has been met with strong opposition in the Philippines because of provisions on prolonged warrantless detention, prolonged surveillance through wiretapping technology, and even reduced liability for errant officers. The Anti-Terror Act of 2020 was signed by Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte in what the presidential palace calls a demonstration of the administration's seriousness to stamp out terrorism. But critics of its provisions say that could be used to target critics of government. Experts point out the level of distrust against law enforcers, including police and the military, which is why there is legitimate fear for abuse of the law. If you look at the track record of the police in the drug war, for example, thousands of drug suspects have died in police operations, with International Criminal Court prosecutor Fatou Bensouda conducting preliminary examination on the Philippines for possible crimes against humanity, currently looking at the country's willingness and ability to prosecute these cases, with the UN High Commissioner on Human Rights saying rights violations in the drug war are systematic, or even the military during martial law 48 years ago under former Philippines President Ferdinand E. Marcos Sr. For 14 years, thousands of dissidents killed, tortured, and detained. So there is historical basis for that fear. But authorities say the law's provisions, that is up to 24 days of warrantless detention and up to 3 months of surveillance through wiretapping, are needed to gather actionable information against suspected terrorists, as there have been cases in the past when individuals supposedly involved in bombing had to be released from government custody because enforcers did not have enough evidence to charge these individuals. And so critics are also arguing that the law is a form of degradation of civil liberties, not to mention that investigation and evidence gathering strategies should instead be bolstered. Critics say they will exhaust all legitimate steps to challenge what they called a draconian law. But if you recall, the Human Security Act of 2007, which is what this law will be replacing, was also challenged before the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court at that time ruled against that petition, saying that there was no justiciable controversy. In other words, the Supreme Court was looking or trying to find an actual case, of someone whose rights have been denied, so they can adjudicate whether it is an unjust law. Even before the bill was signed into law, critics were already preparing to challenge the constitutionality of the Anti-Terror Act before the Supreme Court.
All right, thanks for getting us up to speed. Buena Bernal speaking to us from Manila.